Hi everybody, welcome back to the Tiki Deck again. Here we are, it's a gorgeous sunny day. How many more of these days? I don't know how many we're gonna have, but it's made all the brighter for the presence of my very dear friend Trevor Cole. Trevor, thank you for coming up.
Well, thank you for having me.
From the city.
I've been dying to see how and where this is all done. It's all very glam and
on
there.
When you're watching it, it's very glam, but now you're seeing all the reality of the sticky tablecloth
and the bees that
and
are
the
all
bees,
around.
wasps that are flying around everywhere today. It's really crazy. Audiences, of course, Trevor, know you, I mean, as an incredibly gifted novelist, but of course, as the adaptation of your marvelous work, Norman Bray, and the performance of his life that we did here. Sparky was with us a couple of episodes ago, and we were reminiscing about how that's still one of my most cherished memories. Just the
so
visual of it,
that.
the story. I mean, it was. I loved that production. I mean, it was
and
wonderful.
Sparky really brought it to life. He was the Norman
Right.
in the play, and it was just such a joy and a treat to figure out how to get that on the stage, because it was initially the story was modeled after my father, who
Right.
was, or at least the character of Norman was modeled on my dad, who was an actor, stage
Right.
actor.
Yep, Bill Cole.
So
of
then
course.
to suddenly see this book, which had been about my dad, the stage actor, suddenly on the stage, was mind-blowing and wonderful. And you made it happen. So
Well,
thank
it was actually really Nancy Frater who sort of put us together, because she said to me one day, she said, "You must read this book." She said, and I've given it to I don't know how many people, saying, "You got to if you want a life in the theater, you got to read this book." So I don't know, at least 6-8 copies that
Wow.
I get that I've given to friends and young people and stuff like that,
good.
because it's a brilliant novel. But I mean, when Nancy first she said, I went, yeah, okay, whatever, and I sat for a little while and I got around to reading. And I went, oh my God, yes, absolutely, this is completely written. Or I mean, of course he wrote it as a novel, but I mean that the adaptability of it to put that story on stage.
Yeah, it really was able to come to. We figured out how to do it. Thank you, and boy, it really came to life.
Yeah, it was exciting. Now, what are you working on now? What's
So
cooking in that crazy brain of yours right now?
I'm working on another novel. I'm working on a play idea, and I just recently came out with this book, which is The Whiskey King.
Right. Yes.
Which
of course.
kind of gives me another reason to be here, because it's about Rocco Perry, who
Yeah.
was the big time bootlegger mafia guy in Hamilton in the 1920s and 30s. He was really he was the founder essentially of the mafia as we know it today in that region.
Right.
Hamilton, Niagara, up into North Bay. And so Rocco, he came from nothing. He was poverty-stricken, and by 1924 he was making $1 million a month.
Wow.
As a bootlegger. And kind of what's interesting to me about all the drinks that you've been making, the whole idea of making cocktails came from Prohibition.
Yes,
I know you've
absolutely,
talked about that. Because the booze was so bad, they had to doctor it up
Yes, I had to put
in order to be able to drink it.
to make it that you wouldn't go blind or something drinking it. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I know, and I learned all the different things that they did. At one point, the government started to confiscate all of the bootlegged alcohol, and as much as they could get, they confiscated it. They would test it, whether it was brown, white, whatever. They would test it, and if it was drinkable, they poured it into a big vat, bottled it, and called it rye, and sold it.
Well, there you are.
That was the government. So, but a lot of it wasn't drinkable. So,
right.
anyway, so this is now a paperback, and I've had producers trying to make arrangements with me to put it on TV. We'll see whether that actually happens.
A Globe and Mail Best Book of the Year.
Yes, and it won the Arthur Ellis Award for Best Nonfiction Work in Canada.
Yeah, it's marvelous.
Best nonfiction crime story. Yeah.
So you are now an expert on cocktails.
Essentially, yes.
Essentially, you have become, thanks to Mr. Rocco, you
Yeah.
know everything there is to know.
That's right.
About cocktails and about Prohibition.
More than I ever imagined I would know.
Well, this is the place for us to have some fun. Now, you want to make a drink that I have never had before.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I have never tried it. I'd never even heard of it, and I guess it's maybe because I live under a rock or something, I don't know. But this cocktail is...
It's called the Paper Plane.
the Paper Plane.
And you've just told me that it's one of the most popular drinks in Toronto, which I wasn't even aware of. But you know, I came from a world of, I was either a wine drinker or a straight liquor drinker. I would
Right.
drink, you know, scotch or brandy or wine. And so drinking was always very serious for me. And yet I went one weekend to a cottage, and there was a group of people there that some of them I'd never met. One was a very good friend. But they had all the makings for the paper plane. And it was essentially my first cocktail in years. And it was so much fun drinking it. It became our favorite drink. And so it kind of got me back into the whole mode of making cocktails.
Right.
So that's why I wanted to share it with you.
The cool thing about it is that I guess it's a modern classic. I guess is that what we're calling it?
Yeah,
But-
because it hits all the right notes.
Right, and it's an equal parts cocktail, isn't it?
Yes.
Is it? Yeah, but it's Sam Ross who created the cocktail, because so many, I mean, as in the book too, so much of the history of cocktails is lost in the mists of time.
Right.
You know, it was 1840 something, it was this, and then in 1860 became this. But you can absolutely say the day, the month, the location. I think it was the Violet Hour. I think that was the name of the bar in Chicago. He also created the penicillin, and he's really well known. You
Really
know,
creative man. Yeah.
very creative bartender, or mixologist, I suppose
Right.
is the correct term. So it's neat to be able to say, yes, this is exactly where this cocktail started. I think
And
it
it
was
started-
in 2007.
And it started initially, one of the ingredients was Campari.
Right.
And they changed that. It evolved over time.
It evolved into another thing, but it
Yeah.
uses Amaro, which is any bitter is really Amaro, right? Like Aperol, Campari, they are Amaros because that's the family of bitters. So the Nonino is that type of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a more of a sweetness to this.
This one, I'd never tried it. I bought a bottle of it because you said you were going to make the cocktail. It's got it almost has kind of like a marmalade kind of orangey sort
Yeah.
of neat thing to it.
Yeah,
It's really delicious.
It's very interesting.
It's beautiful on its own. Like, I mean, it's a great.
is, yeah.
It's a great thing just on its own, right? So where do we start with this drink?
Okay, so there's four parts, equal parts, and because, I mean, we can each make one,
Sure.
or we can make two, because it's actually easier to do two.
Oh, well, then why don't you just double
All right.
up?
Because each of the compartments for the individual drink is 3/4 of an ounce. But if you do two, it's 1.5 ounces, and that's so much easier to measure.
To measure it, then
Right?
pour a full jigger into each, and then
Okay.
we'll split it.
So
That's
this
awesome.
is what I'm starting with. This is the ice.
We've got ice in a shaker.
So we're going to do 1.5 ounces of bourbon, and this is Knob Creek, which I've never had before. I'm
Yeah,
looking
it's a
forward to
lovely
that.
bourbon. It's a little higher proof.
Okay.
I think it's.
and they actually call for a slightly higher proof bourbon in this drink.
This
if you
is
can.
50% alcohol, so it's a higher. It's a
Lovely.
higher proof. So we're gonna
Lovely.
get lit up.
So that's that. Then again, same amount of Amaro Nino, and I use a different Amaro. I use the Montenegro.
Right. I've heard it's very nice too.
Also nice. Yes. I think I over poured that. A
Oh,
little bit.
you can never have too much. Especially it's a loving cup. We're sharing it, right?
That's right. And then initially they used the Campari, but it's so bitter, people evolved to the Aperol. So that's the version that I was introduced to, is the Aperol version.
I think I was going to say it's sweeter, but it's not. I think the sugar content's the same. It's just that the Campari is much more bitter, just like me. You're a sweeter guy than I am.
That's true.
I'm just bitter and jaded and happy to sit
also
back and let
noticed-
somebody make me a drink.
When you do these drinks, you never put the tops on of any of the bottles. You just wing it throughout.
Well, we're kind of free pour here a little bit.
And final ingredient is lemon juice.
Fresh lemon juice.
Fresh lemon juice.
Fresh lemon juice.
I can see all the pulp in there. Fabulous.
There's probably a seed or two in there, but that'll wind up in my glass. So
And then
that's
we
okay.
shake it. Now, I like to shake a lot. I don't mind getting ice shards in my drink. It's fine to me.
Yeah, I don't have a problem
Because
with
it's so crystally
Yeah.
cold.
Do you drink martinis?
I do. And
Shaken or stirred?
And I I do this with my shaker. I sort of shake them.
So it's sort of a shake, stir. I'm
They're
going to
not
try that.
cloudy. They're not cloudy when I pour them, but they have little bits of ice in them.
Right. See, I don't mind that in a martini. You know,
No.
the pure, it's got to be crystal clear and there can't be a thing.
All
And I
right.
just want to be James Bond, so that's really the whole shtick.
So here we go.
Okay. Oh, it's a beautiful looking
It's a
drink.
lovely color.
It's a gorgeous color.
I just want to make it even here.
Oh no, put more in mine. Perfect.
There
That
you
looks.
go.
They look perfectly even. Now, this drink is traditionally served with no garnish, just as is.
I've never had a garnish in it, but that's because I was introduced at a cottage.
Well, what I've
So-
heard or what I've read is that this is the drink that no
I've
cherries.
seen pictures
no-
of them, but they've never had
No
a
whatever.
garnish. Because the color of it is so.
It's a gorgeous cocktail. Cheers, my friend.
Cheers.
It's gorgeous. It's got a little sort of natural froth on the surface. It's got a gorgeous color. Oh, beautiful nose. That Aperol just kind of. Cheers.
Cheers.
Wow. That is marvelous.
Isn't it?
That is, I have never had it, but I got to tell you, I think this is my new favorite. I
good.
see where you,
Yeah.
it's got the bitterness of the Amaro. So it's got a bitter thing. It's got there's a, of the bourbon comes through, the lemon just sort of, but
The bourbon is very subtle in this. Everything is subtle. It's just.
and it's got 4 ingredients. It
Yeah.
doesn't need to have like 20 different things
Right,
going on in the
right.
glass, right? It's super simple, but it is.
Because the Amaro has complexity.
This is the new house cocktail.
Good.
This is
As it should be.
you will love this. It's delicious, delicious, delicious. Now, we're on the tiki deck. We're sipping this perfect cocktail. Who should we be listening to? If we're going to put on
Mm-hmm. Oh, my.
we're going to put on a record, who should we be listening to?
Boy,
I'm dating myself with a record.
You're really putting me on the spot here.
Who should we be listening to?
Well, I mean, Avalon.
I mean, I went right to because I read with Sam Ross said that when he was perfecting the cocktail, that he was listening a lot to MIA, and that's why he called it
really?
the paper because he was listening to Paper Planes a whole lot. Like that was kind of the thing that was always going around in his head, and that's where the name came from. Paper
Okay,
Plane was from
all right.
that. So we're going to link that into our, into our.
I don't think I've ever heard MIA.
the thing. Dan, you got it on your phone? He just might. Well, Dan will give us a little live soundtrack.
All right.
But who else speaks to you? As
Well,
kind
I
of a
mean,
drink?
whenever I'm drinking a cocktail, I like piano music.
Right.
I love hearing just lovely melodic, simple piano music in the background.
Okay, so we're thinking, we'll whoever our favorite pianist is. Now,
Yeah.
to put it even further, so we're listening to beautiful piano music, we're enjoying this cocktail. What should we have a little something with it? Should we have a little nibble or something? What should we? What do you think would go well with that?
That's a good question.
Like nuts
because
or-
there's a sweetness to it. So maybe candied nuts.
Yeah. Okay.
It's possible that certain cheeses would work with this.
Right on.
When I'm drinking the
Oh.
Paper Plane, I'm tending not to drink or to eat with it because there's so much flavor in this.
Yeah, because it's a cocktail and you want to enjoy it before
Yeah.
a meal or
Yeah.
whatever. But it's
I always think of wine as being associated with food as opposed to cocktails for some
yeah.
reason.
You know what I just think? If we're just okay, so we'll have a little piece of cheese or something.
I didn't do my homework on that this
listen.
part of the session.
There's no homework. You don't have to ask one embarrassing question. And so now, yes, you are indeed the Whiskey King.
Ah,
This is a
Thank you, sir.
delightful, delightful, delightful cocktail. Now, when are we going to do something again? Come on, we got to talk about that.
we have to talk about what I want to put on your stage.
Well, if you give me 2 or 3 more of these, you can have
Done.
whatever you want.
Done. Just bring more ice.
More ice. Bring more ice. Cheers, my friend. Thank you so
Cheers.
much. This is perfection in a glass. It's just delicious. Cheers. Thanks.